Welcome to April's Garage. Florida Car Week is over and the numbers are incredible from all the auctions that went on. We happen to be there for Moto Miami.
She's using my term now, Florida Car Week. That's what I thought of it, because now it's divided into two weekends because recently Amelia was bought by Haggerty and they kicked out RM auctions from the big ballroom at the Ritz. And rather than have a competing auction there with Broad Arrow, which is Haggerty's, this is complicated internal politics, they decided to go down to Moto Miami and start their own event, and it goes a week before Amelia Island. So we have done both recently. We did Amelia in 23 and Moto in 25.
Yes.
I think I'm a Moto fan.
Right. No, Moto Miami was great. Beautiful cars, lots of selection. Not as slammed, I would say, as Amelia.
It's newer, yeah.
So it's newer, so I'd say it's easier to get around. There's, at the event itself, out the Biltmore, which is beautiful, it is easier to get around. But driving around Miami, I love the A1A and Amelia Island and, the ferry and all that stuff. The area outside of Jacksonville is so pretty, but it is very busy during the Amelia Island Concours, and there's a lot of auctions going on. So it's fun now that we have RM, we have Broad Arrow, we have Gooding, and they all have heavy cars, but we were at the RM auction, and they were the real winners because they had the Indy Museum cars, which were just crazy, and the numbers were insane. So I've compiled a list of the top 10 of all the auctions from Florida Car Week, I guess we call it now, because it's now like a 10-day deal from Miami to Amelia. But, which, you were saying they're like competitors with each other, but now it's turning it into more of like a bigger week event, like a mainstay there in Florida.
Yeah, people were asking me, are you going to Amelia too? I'm like, I can't do both. I got kids. It's 2 weekends in a row, so I have to choose my battles. And yeah, the Biltmore is beautiful and just walking out right there. And the way they did the auction as far as setting it up, like when they did the Indy Museum cars, it was a party.
It was so
like
cool.
A cocktail party with hors d'oeuvres and everything else. And the cars are on plinths, like they're part of the party, just like hanging out, talking to us. And then they're selling the cars, going around. So it was a pretty cool evening, an unusual way to do an auction. I really liked it.
I liked it because the auctioneers, you could actually understand what they were saying as well. You understand auctioneer voice.
The classic Southern Texan auctioneers, I love them personally. So
you do.
Whatever.
I don't hear it. I don't understand it. It just kind of like background noise to me, where when we were at RM, I'm like, oh, I understand what's happening right now.
Okay. Well, you ready for the top 10?
The top 10 sales of the whole
week of 3 major auctions. So we're starting with something old. 1931 Dusenberg Model J disappearing top convertible coupe by Murphy.
But so good. There's a lot I could say about
it's a doozy.
Top. I won't go there.
The Model J is the Duesenberg to have. They were gone by the Great Depression, not much after this. And these coach works where it's the sort of 2-seat convertible configuration always bring the most money. This one, beautifully restored. Yeah, look at that straight 8 engine as far as it's just beautiful. These cars were crazy in their day.
But like how
Triple
much of
the horsepower,
this is original?
10 times the price of like a Model A, Model T.
Right.
No, it's all very original. It's just over-restored of how it would have looked in 1932. And these could go, cruise 80 miles an hour. They could go 100 plus.
Which is wild.
In the day, nuts, because like a Model A, Model T, like 50, 60 was like flying apart.
Well, not just because of that, because of the roads too. I imagine they're not very well maintained as they are. Well, today they're not even maintained, so that would be a little scary.
Number 10 is $3,850,000.
Okay, who has that kind of money to spend on a car that you're not gonna? I'm sorry, but like you're not gonna drive that. You're gonna show it, display it. You're not gonna drive it.
Pretty wild. So next on the list, 1954 Jaguar D-Type. Works competition. So beautiful design, but it's a race car.
Right.
That's what these were built to do.
I love
Steve
the shark
McQueen
fin
had the XKSS, which I think is a few years newer than this, but that's the sort of the similar style.
It's so gorgeous, that Jaguar green. It's just classic Jaguar, the interior as well.
Yep. All the racing pedigree there too. You can see all the stickers of the vintage racing that it's done, but of course in period it did a lot of racing too. So very neat. $4,295,000 to go vintage racing in a real cool Jag.
Is this the top tier Jag, like the #1 primo Jag, would you say, out there?
I mean, McQueen's XKSS would be probably the most valuable Jag in the world, I would think. But yeah, the D-types are or way up there.
Yeah.
Yes. Next on the list, 1971 Lamborghini Miura. And this one's an SV, the birth of the Super Veloce.
Yum.
And only 150 SVs made. And they call this Orencio Miura. So I had a Murcielago that was Orencio Atlas, which was kind of a pearl metallic orange. But yeah, here is the birth of the supercar with Lamborghini right here.
Over Gobi beige. Gobi beige interior. These are just iconic. They're cool. I say they're the first supercar ever.
300 are still going.
Okay, fine.
But yeah, it's arguable.
One of the top supercars.
This one, $4,460,000.
Worth it. Totally worth it.
A new record, I think, for one of these. John Tamarian, who you interviewed at Moda,
right?
Who isn't a big fan of me because I didn't sell him the Countach. I traded it on the Veyron.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks that this is undervalued still, these SVs. Really? Even though it's a new record, a long way to go.
I think he mentioned that about the Veyron, too, which was a nice thing to say about your Veyron.
Nice thing to say, yes.
So he does care about you.
So we have, as far as sales, we have RM on the Dusenberg.
Right.
We have Broad Arrow, which is Haggerty's auction, on the Jaguar and the Lamborghini. So it's fun to see these compete. And then the next one is an RM sale of a 96 Ferrari F50. Yes. 349 F50s built, which I didn't realize there were so few of them. It's crazy how few they built.
Well, I think they wanted to build less of them because they built more of the F40, and so they weren't as special, they were thinking, and so they wanted to make it more like inclusive and selective.
I'd still have the F40 over these.
Really? Because they're kind of more rugged, F40. Like this, I feel is like it's more comfortable and easier to drive.
Yeah, I'd go back and forth, but F40's pretty amazing.
You want both, is what you're saying.
I need a bigger sugar mama than you.
Right.
You're a wonderful sugar mama.
I can share. Ladies, I'm down to share.
This one, $5,532,500 with RM. And yeah, big result there. I think this one was pretty low mileage. I think there was one that sold for more with a lot more miles.
Right.
And so this one was a deal considering how nice it was, if I remember correctly. But yeah, 1,351 miles on this one. So basically new.
Now, is that number with fees?
That's with fees.
I would say, okay, with fees. Understand.
Yes. And it's interesting because there's two cars that tie from different auctions because they have the exact same fees. But that's coming up. So Gooding, first on the list with this, and
which you were shocked about this car and
nuts.
How much it sold for.
This is absolutely insane. So it's a 1989 Porsche 911,
right?
But it is a Ruf CTR Yellowbird, as they call them.
So cool. I mean, that's such a rare color. I think it's like yellow blossom is the Porsche color, a very rare color.
Ruf is a tuning company for Porsche. It's not like they're building these cars from the factory. They only made 29. Okay.
So it's rare.
The number. $6,055,000.
Why does that freak you out?
For a tuned Porsche.
Okay.
I get that Ruf's really cool, and this was in all the magazines, and it was faster than anything in its day. Absolutely unbelievable power and acceleration, all that stuff. Holy crap, $6 million. That is two guys wanting a Yellowbird and saying whatever it takes.
You think that happened?
It's like the Superbird a few years ago, where there was one guy who wanted the Superbird, got bid up to $1 million.
Right.
And he missed out. He was mad. So the next one, whatever it took, I'm buying it. And he paid, I think, $1.5 million for the next Superbird.
Right.
Then he got his car. There was nobody else to bid against these people to go up to $1 million, and now Superbirds are back down to $500,000. I feel like this is one of those instances where it's a you know what measuring contest, and
well, and that's what happened with the original Batmobile back in the day, where the two guys knew that they just had unlimited money and they were going to keep bidding over and over again. So what they decided to do is do a coin flip. Whoever called the right side, heads or tails, was going to get the Batmobile. That actually happened. So, ladies and gentlemen, if that happens to you, instead of just bidding up higher and higher and higher, just get your coin out.
I suppose. But somebody paid $6 million for an '89 Porsche.
It's beautiful. It's really cool. There's a lot of lightweight design on there. I love
$6 million.
It's very sleek and
there's
beautiful.
So many, like you could have yourself a Gullwing, a Duesenberg, a Tucker, and a couple of GNXs for this.
A couple, really?
For this Yellowbird. Now, all of our dream car garages is done.
What's your dream Porsche? Because I love Singer Porsches, and I feel like I would go millions for that.
I know a Singer Porsche sells for $750,000 secondhand-ish, depending on the build. So this, $6 million?
Right. What's your pinnacle number one Porsche?
I would get a 930 Turbo like what my dad had when I was a kid that he sold right before I reached driving age because He didn't want his son to die, you know, sneak the car out in like all the movies. So
yeah. Did you ever sneak your car out?
Oh, I snuck his cars out. For
really?
Sure. Oh, all the time.
So I got to tell you, because I'm like a goody two-shoes and I can't do anything wrong, I snuck my brother's car out of the garage, 95 Camaro. It was amazing.
How old were you?
Maybe 14 years old. But those cars, I feel like that body style, they always get pulled over no matter what, because they stick out on the road.
Well,
and, luckily I didn't get pulled over that night.
My dad was really excited to get a 2004 911 Turbo Cabriolet 6-speed, and he hid the keys in his sock drawer where he hides all of his keys that he doesn't want me to get a hold of his cars. And usually he would let me...
How did you know they were in there?
You know, I just knew. And usually once he's had the car for a while, he loosens up and he would let me drive it because I'm kind of college age at this time.
Right.
And he's like, you don't drive it, don't drive it. He goes out of town for the first time, and I call him up and I say, hey, Dad, you still hide your keys in the sock drawer? Ha, ha, ha. And started up his car in the garage just to mess with him. He's like, don't you drive, don't you dare. Don't. I didn't, but I just, you know.
That's why, because when we've been at their lake house, and your dad's always like, you can't drive the boat, don't drive the boat. And he's so direct and serious about it to you. Still, at this age, he doesn't want you to drive it.
It's fine.
You're always going to be his little boy.
Anyway, $6 million, pretty crazy. Well, how about $7,705,000 for a Corvette? But
so cool.
Arguably a very special, significant, I mean, not arguably, it is probably the most significant racing Corvette ever. 1957 Chevrolet Corvette SS project.
Right.
So.
Built by Zora Duntov, who is a Russian. I think he was born in Belgium, but he's a Russian.
Yes.
Back in the day, in the 50s. I feel like it'd be a little scary to be an engineer from Russia in America because all like the communism stuff going on, right?
Well,
a little scary.
He got out. But what's crazy about this is it's the first car campaigned by General Motors, the first Corvette race car by GM.
Right.
And they did it with a magnesium body on this thing. So it's not fiberglass like all of them, like not flimsy. It's a magnesium body, so it looks very different. It looks like a Hot Wheel, which I think they made a Hot Wheel.
It totally looks like a Hot Wheel.
And yeah, huge racing history, special car. I mean, everything about it's pretty incredible. So once again, people are fighting over this. This is an Indy Speedway Museum car that they had forever. And the rest of these on the top 10 are mostly from the Indy Museum, which they're selling some of their special cars to build a whole new facility, which at this point, with the prices these cars bringing, they could buy a small country at this point for the numbers that they got on these cars, I feel like. Because they're selling like a 300 SLR, stuff like that. Just crazy numbers.
Well, I feel like this helped save the Corvette because they came out in '53 with like that blue flame engine that was kind of slow, like really, really slow. But it was called Blue Flame, so it sounded fast, but it was crap. And Zora was really kind of the mouthpiece to really get these cars fast and be serious sports cars. And this was his kind of invention, and it really saved Corvette, I think, in general.
Very cool, yes. So RM had that, and RM also had another significant race car. It was really cool to see. 1908 Mercedes 17.3 liter, 150 horsepower in 1908, which is pretty good.
Do you know, it reached like a top speed of 95 miles an hour at one point. But like, imagine in 1908 how unsafe the roads are, how unsafe these cars are.
Right.
It would be terrifying to drive this even like 40 miles an hour, let alone 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any front brakes on this. I think it's just a rear drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's $8,255,000 for
love this
pretty crazy
chain.
Yeah, the chain drive off the transmission. Yeah, it's very crude, but
it's very...
also the engine, 17.3 liters.
So is that enough?
It's a huge. That's huge. The Escalade's a 6 liter. That's a big engine. So 17.3 liters to get 150 horsepower. Not very efficient back in 1908, but yeah, the Rennwagen.
It looks
pretty
highly
cool.
original too.
They did an amazing job restoring this. Whoever did back in the day. It was in the Indy Museum, and they're turning it loose. But yeah, pretty amazing. This car.
Look at inside all the brass that's used with that gorgeous body color.
Yes.
Kind of the ivory body color. Wow, that's stunning.
Yep. Well, somebody paid $8 million for, I don't know if it's the oldest surviving Mercedes race car, but probably darn near it. So
why do you think
pretty impressive.
It had a 17-liter engine?
Because they had to make the most power as they could, but they were, they they don't have refinement in technology as far as manufacturing yet. So they're using like pistons the size of coffee cans, you know, to
Really?
get this big displacement to make power. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're in the top 3.
Okay.
And number 3 and number 2 are a tie. So they're a tie for second or a tie for third, whatever you would say. And they're both Ferrari. So Broad Arrow had one, and it's a 1959 Ferrari 250 GT, long wheelbase California Spider, but this one a competition, so a comp. So this is a race car, campaigned in period, but it's still that beautiful Ferrari 250 body style. So amazing machine. Was in the 59 24 hours of Le Mans.
Oh.
Pretty nuts.
Le Mans.
Yeah. And it sold for $9,465,000.
Oh my gosh.
But
Crazy.
yeah, Ferrari 250 GTs tend to bring the jingle jangle, and this one has all the pedigree as far as it being a comp and the race period photos, and just, I mean, look at it. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, lots of documentation, racing pedigree, which is huge. But then there's also a thing about racing when they haven't been crashed and they haven't been beat up. And so this one has done a great job surviving all of these years, and that's why it brings millions of dollars.
Ferris Bueller gets a hold of them and crashes it through the back of a garage.
Tyler Hoover gets a hold of them, and the keys are in the sock drawer.
Oh, come on. So that is tied with another Ferrari. So that was Broad Arrow at Amelia. And this is Gooding, who had a 1955 Ferrari 375 Berlinetta.
Gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
So quite a bit older.
Gorgeous.
$9,465,000. Again, the same price. So this one, another 12-cylinder, 335 horsepower. And it's interesting to see the design evolution of Ferrari from, 5-10 years or so.
It is gorgeous. That back windshield that just wraps around the whole body and just unbelievable. It's not over the top, wild, crazy look at me. It's just streamlined, gorgeous, very aerodynamic. Look at that interior. Obviously, it's been redone, but very tastefully. It looks like that would have been the correct color interior. This is really sweet.
Yeah, Ferrari knew what they were doing basically from the very beginning, because this is just absolutely stunning.
Wait, so there's a car that sold for more?
Yes, there's one that sold for more.
One.
Did you black out because it was so amazing?
Oh, you're talking about, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
At RM,
Yes.
the star of the show at the Indy Museum Collection.
Standing right next to it when it's sold.
A 1966 Ford GT40. And we're hanging out with Ed Bullion and a couple of other dudes that are experts at the auction. Shmee, yes, Tim Burton, Shmee 150. And Ed was going around asking everybody, kind of like a bidding pool, what do you think it'd sell for? And I said 11. Ed went, it won't bring that. And Shmee said it was like 8, and I think Ed was like at 8.5 or something like that.
Maybe
low.
A little more.
No, they were low. And then they went to April, and so, well, how much do you think it's going to sell for April? And April's like, I don't know, 12. And they laughed at her. Oh, girl, she doesn't know anything. $12 million. Well, guess what? It sold for $12 million. After fees, $13,205,000. So April was right on the money with her guess.
I was. But this is like American history in racing at a time where we were just looked down upon. Like, we're hillbillies in racing, and we went to Le Mans and just like made them all look twice at America and earned respect on this world stage, this world platform of racing. We're finally like, we're here. You can't make fun of us. I know we're hillbillies, but right now we are winning. And that's what this car means.
And the Mark 1 was sort of, it didn't do very well. The Mark 2 was the one that won all the races. And what this is, 8 of the Mark 2s.
I think this one raced in Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring.
And it's the real deal. You'll own it, you'll drive it, and people will ask you if it's real.
Drive it. Nobody's going to drive it.
You'll drive it to a show, and people will be asking, is that a replica?
You're going to trailer it to a show.
That's the problem with buying this car, is there's so many replicas on it.
Right.
Just like buying a Porsche Speedster or a Shelby Cobra. You buy the real deal, you go to the show, and you have to bring a magnet and basically put magnets on the car to show, yes, it's real. Because otherwise, it's not a fiberglass replica. So that's the big problem with owning one of these. But I don't think that was the ultimate I'm richer than you contest there for, $13 million with fees.
I say it's worth it. I mean, right now in our culture with Ford versus Ferrari, the movie that came out kind of breathed new excitement into these cars. And this is culturally kind of where we're at. And I think that's worth it.
Yeah, a Ford beat out a Ferrari or two Ferraris, but a 250 GT, not a GTO. The GTOs are stratosphere cars, but this is is knocking on the door, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's an unusual color combination with that green wrapped up front and kind of that brass, warm graphite wheels on there. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, so RM was the king of the Florida Car Week auctions with their sales, the most in the top 10, mostly because of this indie museum turning things loose with RM. So they had a big advantage there with one collection. But there were a few that I was watching just for personal interest. One of them was a Bugatti Veyron that was selling at Broad Arrow.
Can I just tell you that, like, you needed to shower because you were like going somewhere and you had the auction playing on your laptop in the bathroom so you could view it from the shower. That actually happened.
I put the laptop screen towards the shower door so I could wash my hair and then look over. Okay, that one went for that. You know, yeah, just so I could be clean, right?
Yes.
So they had a Veyron at Broad Arrow.
Right.
And the estimate was like 1.9 to 2.2. And it has 3,000 miles, so very low mileage. Mine has 12,000 miles.
Right.
But it is a 2008, same year, 16.4 coupe, just like mine. So they made 252 Veyron coupes, only 76 in the U.S. So this and mine, there's two of the 76 in the U.S., but only 3,000 miles. I like my spec better, but 3,000 miles, this one's certainly very pretty, had some service history. It didn't say that it had been freshly serviced, so it probably needed to go in for one, I'm not sure. But
yeah, just a $100,000 service, no big deal.
it didn't meet reserve at 1.8.
Right.
So that was 1.875 was the top bid. If there was a $2 million number on this one, I would have been very happy because that would have sent a new benchmark, a new level, the $2 million club for a normal Veyron
Do you
coupe.
think that's where the reserve was set?
I don't think so. It's probably back of that a little bit. But I was hoping to see a $2 million result there because then that raises the bar.
Because that's so close. This high bid is so close to $2 million. You'd think they would want to just let it go for going through all the trouble of going to the auction.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of happy that they didn't, that it got bid up to this, and the seller's like, no, we're not doing this. We want $2 million because we need the cars to be selling for, join the $2 million club for the ultra low mileage cars. And the mine, which with 12,000 miles, still pretty low, but not super low, it drags them up. Because the end goal for me is to enjoy this car for a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, and then have the maintenance paid for in the appreciation, hopefully some of the interest that I'm paying on it, because there's a lot of interest on the loan, and then be able to trade it straight across for a going. And then it's in game, like Ocean's 11, I'm like walking off into the sunset, with the fountains going and everything else.
Is that like guy math right there? Is that how that works?
That's what I want to happen. That's the dream. In the meantime, I'm thrilled to have the Veyron as long as it's still working. It's not back yet, though. It's on a truck somewhere.
On its way to Mexico, maybe.
I just thought about that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We've been home about a week. But yeah, so the other thing is, one of my old hoopties was there. A car that I traded in for my Veyron.
You're going to call it a hoopty, though?
It wasn't a hoopty. Right. So my 2002 Z8. So I traded in my Lamborghini Countach, which Prin at Chicago Motor Cars has sold my Countach. He didn't tell me how much, but it is sold. And now the Z8 that he bought from me, he put in this auction, he put in at Broad Arrow at Amelia. So both cars are sold. There's really no going back and undoing this now because my cars that I traded in are gone.
Yep.
But the Z8 was there, offered at no reserve, and it sold for $155,000. With fees, it was like 160 something.
Which is what you kind of had it priced out in your head to sell for, right?
So it sold for $155,000. That was the hammer price before fees.
Yeah.
I paid $155,000 for it in 2021, 4 years ago.
Right.
So exactly, like the exact number of what I paid for it.
Which is fantastic. That usually doesn't happen in the car world unless you have these specific collector type cars.
So in 2021, when I bought it, the world was starting to go crazy with collector cars, and these had started to go up.
Used cars, all the prices went up.
Yes, the whole world went crazy. And these were starting to go up when I bought it. They had their crazy peak in 2022, 2023, along with lesser M cars like a E39 M5, E46 M3, and they've kind of come back down to earth. And it's sort of the same, I feel like, with the Z8. So it's pretty much, back up to the same number of when I bought it at 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's sort of just leveled back out, in my opinion. I put the Alpina wheels on it, which was a nice upgrade, I feel like.
So how much would an actual Alpina bring? Would it bring more?
More, which it makes no sense because it doesn't have the M engine and they're all automatic transmissions. They don't drive as good.
What I thought, which is I'd rather have this with the Alpina wheels.
So I was selling it, I felt like with the trade-in, it's guy math because I traded in 2 cars and we were just working the bottom number. But I felt good about the number I was getting, or I felt like I didn't lose money owning the car for a number of years. I think the estimate on this one was like 190 to 210, so way back of what they thought the estimate was, which I thought the estimate was way high. But I am missing that car. I really did enjoy driving it.
Yeah.
I drove you in it when we first met.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a great car.
And back when I was totally uneffable, apparently, terrible posture, and she asked for riding the Z8 to get to the auction, and I'm like, hey,
You had a glow up. A little bit of a glow up. Sorry.
Anyway.
That's so mean to say uneffable. I like this car. I think it's really cool. It's a little tight inside. I'm trying to save this video right now. I think you are always very effable because you have a wonderful personality. And you're very sweet. And you're very smart. And you know a lot about cars. I think it's cool.
You can end the video by saying thank you for watching it any time.
What James Bond movie was this in?
The Brosnan film, Tomorrow Never Dies or Die Another Day. They're all kind of blended together.
They all blend together.
But yeah, Brosnan started with BMWs. He had the Z3, the 750 that he crashed to return the rental, and this that got sawed in half in the film. Then he ended with the Vanquish, which is the Bond car that I still have back there. So,
right. I mean, why do you think this car has come up in popularity so much? Was it from the movie?
No. It's from it being inspired by the classic BMW 507 that is now a multi-million-dollar car.
Right.
It's an aluminum body. It's a 6-speed manual. It has the M engine in it, 400 horsepower that you would have got out of the E39 M5. So stunningly beautiful, the right powertrain, manual transmission. Cool car. They made a couple thousand of them. They're not that rare, but cool car.
Very cool car. You look good in it, and I'm sad you sold it. Thanks so much for watching. Are you sad still? You sold it? Maybe